the game Disgrace and Favour in front of me. Now, I've read the blurb on this, Andy, and it sounds quite interesting. For those who are watching, how about you give them kind of a little bit of a flavour of what's going on here?
Okay, well the flavour is, essentially, you are a socialite, a lowly socialite trying to rise through the ranks. And you do that by finding out information on important people,
Yep.
and then persuading, and by persuading I mean blackmailing them, to support you in your cause, to elevate you to a higher position. And the person, essentially that's done through victory points, and the person with the most victory points in the end is the most important person.
Excellent. Okay, so you've got the game in front of us here,
Yep.
and there's quite a few bits and pieces to it. How about you kind of give us a quick kind of rough idea of what's going on here?
Well, I've set it up. I've set it up briefly so that we've got we can do a couple of turns of a two-player game.
Okay,
But essentially, you get these tokens in the bag. There are 30 tokens in the game. In a four-player game, so it's 2 to 4 players.
Yep.
In a four-player game, you'll have 10 of each in the bag.
Yep.
Then 8 for 3, and we've got 6 each of the colours for 2 players. There is also a disgrace token in the bag, which is, well, you say no, it can be quite useful.
Okay. Right.
If I use it to disgrace one of your characters, it's quite useful.
Okay, that seems fair.
So you'll basically you start off with a couple of these tokens.
Yep.
So we'll just have a couple each,
Okay.
just to get us going. You also you don't start with a disgrace token.
Oh,
That goes in the bag after you've taken your 2.
of course.
So now what happens is we have these dice. These are snooping dice,
Okay.
and then the cards are, if I can find a good example, right? The cards are. You have symbols in the corners of the cards. So
Yeah.
you have this one is a Davenport, so there's the D initial for their surname,
Yep.
and the flag represents a noble family.
Oh, right.
So you've got nobles, church, and army.
Okay.
You can make sets of these, 3 cards of each set, or more, and sets of these. So you can have 3 Davenports or 3 nobles.
Was it like
But you-
a rummy or something like that? Do you have to?
Yeah, basically it's a set collecting game. At its heart, it's a set collecting game, but it's not as easy as just picking up a card, putting it in a set, and playing it.
Yeah.
Getting hold of the cards isn't that easy. So you can only play these in 3s, sets of 3. There are 2. This is Miss Beatrice Davenport,
Yeah.
and there's 2 of her in the deck.
Right. Okay.
Now, if you've played her in a set of nobles in front of you, and then I get the other Beatrice Davenport in my hand, and the disgrace token, the disgrace token says you must disgrace somebody from your hand. So if I disgrace my Beatrice Davenport and then point out that she's there as well, yours goes as well.
Oh, harsh.
If that takes your set down from 3 to 2, your set won't score any points. You can add to sets during the game, but there's a potential that set you've striven to get is no longer worth anything.
Worthless.
Yeah. And when I disgrace her, and this is where this is where the flavour comes in, I would read out, whilst lifting her skirts across the street, Miss Davenport allowed her ankles to be seen,
Shocking behaviour.
which is
I know.
horrendous. So there are special cards in the game which allow you to do other things. For example, this is the scapegoat.
Yeah.
Anybody with asterisks means got a special power. This one says if you try to disgrace one of my characters, I can use him from my hand to say he's going to take the blame.
Yeah.
So in that circumstance, ironically, Percy Wallace would have lifted his skirt and showed his ankles, but
How inappropriate, Percy.
but there is only one of him in the game because he's already
Quite.
shameful.
Yes. You can't have that
In
many
this society, I would say. The scapegoat and the fool worth -2 points, but can be in any set.
Okay, makes sense.
And a little controversial, and this is, bear in mind when this was said, the feminist is the other one that can no longer be shamed because she's already shameful enough, but very useful, I have to say, in the game. So,
Excellent.
yeah, so there's all those sorts of things. So to actually play one turn, if we could,
Yeah.
to buy the characters, you start off with the deck here, and we count out 6 cards.
Yeah.
Actually, if I turn it this way, that's probably better, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So,
Yeah.
these 6 cards. Now, we then also get a pool of tokens.
Okay.
So, with 2 players, we get 6 tokens. So, 6 tokens. That's our pool. Now, in order to buy these characters,
Yeah.
you need a token of the corresponding colour.
Yes.
This one is worth 1 because it's nearest the deck. Then 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay.
But when if you go first, when you've taken your turn, they slide down.
Ah, right. Okay. And then
So
the new one goes in the
then
end.
there would be no, not a new one on the end. They just literally, if you bought all of them, there'd be nothing for me.
Okay.
But that doesn't happen. It's very expensive. So if you bought those 2, they would slide down, and that would be 1 for me, 2, 3, 4. So the way we get these tokens, which is what we use to buy the people, is by snooping.
Right.
This is our snooping dice. This represents your manservant or your maid or your butler who goes out, because obviously you're not going to do this yourself, because that wouldn't be right now.
Don't in my hands.
But they go out into the community and eavesdrop and hunt through diaries and that sort of thing, and they find out things about these people.
Okay.
We choose a number on the dice, and so if you just choose a number, it's probably the easiest way to show you an example.
Okay, I'll choose 3. Let's say.
Well, I've chosen 3 as well. So I'm going to cheat just to show you what happens. I'm going to go for 4, right? The lowest unique number goes first and takes that many tokens. So you would take 3 tokens,
Excellent.
and then you could buy anyone you like. So for example, what have you already got?
I've already got red and the blue.
The red and the blue. So if you took those,
Yeah.
then you could buy that for 1
Yeah.
and that for 2.
Yeah. And then that's me.
And you could buy that. Oh, in actual fact, you might prefer to do that. Because she's -1.
I don't want that, no.
The cards go from, the highest one is 5, which is just a family member. The lowest one is -1, which is just a family member. Head of the family, black sheep of the family.
Good.
Everybody in between is the professions, 1s, 2s and 3s.
Yeah.
Now it may seem strange, why would you buy that one? But when you have if you had 2 Fitzroys in your hand and no way to play the set, suddenly that becomes useful.
Exactly. And then you get some points.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you bought those, you take those, they go back in the bag, they slide down, and then I would take 4. There's only 3, so I just get what's left. If there were none, I would take 1 from the bag.
Alright, okay.
If you'd chosen 6, well, couldn't happen in a 2-player game. But in a 3 and 4-player game, obviously the snooping dice play a bigger part, because if we had chosen 3 each, then we would have both failed and got a consolation 1. And what I found fascinating, when I first made the game, I thought this isn't going to be a 2-player game because of the snooping. Because if you match, that's it.
Yeah.
The bag person would go first, take 1 token. The other person take 1 token. But what I found was that because sometimes you're trying to match with the other person. If I'm the bag holder, I want to match with you to stop you taking lots of tokens.
Yes.
And the disgrace token suddenly plays more and more of a part, because then it's literally I'm aiming for your people.
Okay, that makes sense.
In a bigger player game, obviously if you have 4 players and I play the 6 and you'd all matched, I would go first and get 6 tokens, because everybody who matched and failed goes last and gets 1 token. So the snooping bit is about player order, establishing player order, and how many tokens you get.
Okay, that makes sense. Awesome. So as you were saying earlier to me, this is only a limited edition run, isn't it?
Yeah, 100 copies.
Oh.
They're going quite well.
Yeah.
It's quite nice. They're £15 at the expo this weekend.
Okay.
I'm anticipating that will rise to about £18 after the expo.
Okay.
But we're going to have to see about that.
And if you want to get a copy, I guess they just go to your website, or
You can come to the website, see if there's any available after the show.
Yeah.
If it's successful and a publisher wants to take it up and do a bigger run, then that might be possible. If I have 1,000 people email me and say, I want a copy, then obviously I would do another run.
Yes.
But it has to be, as an independent games maker, there's only so much money in the pot. And obviously you don't make a huge amount on 100 games, because it costs quite a lot to make each one. On 1,000 games, economies of scale come into play. But the idea is that I enjoy making games. I want to get games out there that people can play, and essentially, if it covers its costs, then that's fantastic, and I'm happy.
Well, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much.